in my corner, surrounded by my books. God, I love books. Favorite books are, choosing favorites is a lie. And I never believe in them. And I don't believe in them, and I don't think I ever will. Good morning, y'all. I'm sitting in my corner of my books and don't like that either. I spent this morning crying into my bowl of oatmeal while listening to an audiobook. And it was a good cry and a bad cry, and just, God, nothing makes me cry more than romance. And I will be the first one to admit that, which I just realized I don't admit that often. So there you go, world. So here I am. I want to be doing a book review in the way that it is my goal to do them. And by that, I mean after I read them and like soon after I read them. So my thoughts are all, as much as they can be present and in order, because otherwise I just move on to the next thing and I just move on, and I think about books, but what I want to say is not as present as much anymore. And all of this that I'm ever doing is just spitballing into the camera. And like, I think of it beforehand and then I record. So, yeah. Honestly, I woke up at 7 a.m. this morning. I'm stressed about my move and just so tired but so awake, and I do what I immediately do, and I'm like that, and I switched to my audiobook, tried to go back to sleep, and obviously failed at doing that because I'm stressed and antsy and preparing to move across countries and finish a job I've done for 4 years and leave my whole life behind. But I put on my audiobook and I cleaned my house and I cried, and it was a good cry and a bad cry, and it felt cathartic. And all I'm going to say is that, y'all, I have seen One Last Stop basically everywhere over socials. I'd been aware of it, and I don't know. I won't lie that this trend in book cover design, I really don't like. I don't like it at all. I find it really boring and just oversimplified and too blocky and saturated and chalky, and I was just kind of like, ugh, another one of these things that I keep seeing all over, book Instagram and all that jazz. But then admittedly, I was listening to, I believe it's Love Letters podcast, and they had an interview with the author of One Last Stop. Their name is Casey McQuiston, and I loved the interview. And I'm nervous. I'm doing that thing that I do when I'm nervous, and I don't like that I do that. But basically, I loved the interview, and I thought they were brilliant, and I thought they were funny and brilliant and funny and hilarious and hopeful. And I thought to myself, well, if I like this author so much and listening to them speak, they're queer and non-binary and unapologetically so and proudly so, and I was like, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. So that night I downloaded the audiobook, One Last Stop. That was on Friday. I am recording this on Friday around midnight. I am recording this Monday at like 10 a.m. I finished it maybe an hour ago. It's a 12-hour audiobook, 13 hours. I basically blew through that in essentially almost 2 days. So that's a testament to it, right? So I listened to the audiobook. The audiobook service that I use is called Libro.fm. It's brilliant. I'm going to do a second video on that later. I finally got my subscription sorted, listened to it, and it might be one of my new favorite books. I don't know, it was just so good. The audiobook was narrated by Natalie Naudus. The book is produced by St. Martin's Griffin, whom I don't really know much about, and it is a Macmillan audio production. Honestly, I recommend the audio production. But so One Last Stop is a story about August. She's like this really cynical woman, and she moves to New York, and she kind of doesn't really believe that there's much out there for her. And in so much as I would go to say that she doesn't like so much deserve stuff, and she's, you know, she's used to being alone and she's fine with being alone, or she just accepts that that's how it will always be. And she's cynical, and then she sort of gets taken under the wing of her new roommates who are really funny, and grows into this community and this family. And then, you know, she's working as a waitress at a famous pancake diner in Brooklyn on Flatbush. And she's late for class one day and goes on the train, and she spills coffee all over herself and meets this beautiful woman, and then just keeps meeting this woman on the train. And that is the story, and that it goes from there. It's romance, it's hopeful, it's funny, it's light. There's a bit of sci-fi. I don't want to give too much away, but sci-fi kind of elements. And I don't know, it really struck a chord. It really struck a chord, and I think it's because, you know, August, the main character, doesn't really like allow herself to want these things or to accept that she can have them, and that she can accept like this love and this life and this family and these roots, and that they're hers for her to have. And she, you know, doesn't accept that the love that life comes with. And to be completely frank, it struck a chord because although I feel like I put out this exterior of being bubbly and carefree and outgoing and, you know, sort of carefree, and I said that, but easy and hopeful and light and joyful, and I am all of those things, but I also believe that at the core of myself, I'm so much like August was. And you know, that I don't believe life will give me certain things, and I don't believe that I am deserving of like certain love. And you know, I think that comes with a lot of inherited, learned transphobia. And it's really hard, and it's hard to like admit that to myself, and it's hard to, you know, admit that to other people, and I never do. I don't really let people see that side of me, of being this like cynical person who, you know, doesn't, you know, believe that I'll ever you know, just being this cynical person who only thinks that life will give me so much, and I'll just watch everyone else experience it, but it will never come to me. And I don't want to believe that, but I do. It's a core belief that I think I'm working on, that, you know, is half taught, half maybe a defense mechanism, maybe like, you know, I've been hurt by a lot of people in the past. And to have read a book that is so queer and so joyful and hopeful and persistent, and to have this main character who's so aghast at this love story that's hers, who can't believe that it's her life. Yeah, that struck a chord. And fuck, and whoops, and I'm so, I don't know how to do reviews. I should just Google how to do a book review for my BookTube channel. Shit. But yeah, it's hopeful, and it hit a chord, and it's beautiful, and you know, it's so corny, but if I can watch other people believe it, then maybe I can believe it for myself. And I was particularly kind of feeling in those like gutters this weekend. Life is throwing a lot of curveballs. And I'm a hopeless romantic. I am a complete suck. I'm a hopeless romantic. Maybe that is easy to see for other people. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But I have a lot of love to give. And whoever gets it will be flippin' lucky. I can tell you that much. Yeah. Go read this book. What else do I say? And I cried for hours this morning. Cried putting my laundry out. I cried, making coffee. I was crying, eating my oatmeal and listening to this audiobook and just listening there and completely and utterly get it. And romance will always do that to me. I'm a complete suck. I'm a total romantic. I've said that like 5 times. And that's the first book I've read in July. And I blasted through it, and it's just such a gift. And God, I love books. I went to school for photography. I would consider myself an artist. I'm sorting through a lot of feelings about that right now. And I met this person this weekend who owns a gallery in Tokyo, and this is like this crazy art project, and life is really hectic right now. And this person was like, well, who do you like? Which photographers do you like? And honestly, all I could think of were the books that I'm reading right now. And the writers that I'm giving myself to. And yeah, I have all these photography books that I love, but literature is taking up a lot of my brain. And I think this might be a new favorite. I can never choose favorite books. Choosing favorites is a lie, and I never believe in them, and I don't believe in them, and I don't think I ever will. I like certain books for certain reasons, and this is checking off a lot of those boxes. But so it's quite high up on the list now, and it's definitely going to be one that I refer to again and again. And the audiobook is fantastic, and I recommend it. It's a story, young, people in their 20s trying to figure out life and how to go about being people, and who the hell doesn't ever stop trying to figure that out. And in New York, and this ragtag bunch of misfits who are denying themselves or letting themselves be free, and meeting all these great people and going to drag shows and hosting fundraisers, and it's very hard not to swear. And trying to get through university, and shocked at figuring out how they have to move on after their lives, finishing school and surviving in this like massive like swallowing city, and all the meanwhile like meeting a beautiful woman on the train and seeing her again and again and again and feeling electrified, and completely being swallowed up by that feeling of finally having a home and having a place that is hers, that a feeling that she's never experienced before. And her name is August. I love. Having roots, having tethers. And yeah, it kind of echoes how I felt a lot in my life in Tokyo. Being young and being able to like screw up and do stupid shit and bounce back and learn and experience all of these things. And I feel like I'm going through like a sort of second intentional adolescence is what I've been saying recently. And like more on my own terms. And I'm leaving all of that soon. So that was the 1-2 punch combination. The life and the characters that's in this story, and then the romance. And one thing that I'm leaving behind, and one thing that I'm hopefully moving towards. And I believe that. I think my life will change a lot when I get to Calgary in ways that I've been hoping for years. And just being around people and in a society that's not fair. Just being in the context that I want to be in, that I'm more made for. And so hopefully something like their story is waiting for me over there. Read One Last Stop. I was jaded and I thought I was overrated, but I tried it and it was It was so good. It was everything. I just realized that I've been consuming a lot of media recently. I did another video about how I finished watching Heartstopper for the second time. I haven't uploaded it. Hopefully I will, whatever. But I've been consuming a lot of media recently that focuses on like queer joy. And I think I need it. And I think it's long overdue. And I think it is another reason why I'm like so in love with this book. And between like Heartstopper and recently finishing A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers and a couple other things where the joy and the lightness is the main focus and not just like overburdened with trauma and pain. It's been a gift and I'm really lucky, and it helps me sort out my own feelings, and it helps me, you know, just love the books even more. And I love them, and we need them, and we need them. And God, if I don't ever just only want to consume queer media, you know, including the other stuff, but it feels nice to balance it out, y'all. Come on now. I'm recording a second video just so I can stitch that in. All right. Okay. Anyway, Owari, all finished. Have a great day, y'all. Bye-bye.